We are going to start with the Irish Independent this morning, and we can bring that back page up there. Play the All-Ireland hurling final after the football. I feel I am right where I want to be, says Rory McIlroy, and Sexton returns as Schmidt calls in big guns. So play the All-Ireland hurling final after the football. This is according to Leinster Council CEO Michael Reynolds. He reckons that it's not the worst idea of all time to reorder things. We can't have any sacred cows anymore is the standout line for me. It's that we need to look at things and make changes accordingly. This year, because there's a visiting dignitary coming, there's going to be an extra week. So actually you should have the All-Ireland football final the last week of August according to the current schedule, and that's the end of the GAA season. Obviously the camogie and the women's football are the following 2 weeks after that. He's making the point that why not just push the hurling back a week, give everybody the opportunity to have that promote even more, because it's very condensed and hurling kind of falls off the radar really quickly after the round robin stage. What do you think?
I think, why does every single conversation about hurling versus football, but why does it always have to become a hurling versus football conversation? Why can't the current schedule just be tried out for a little while and see what you remember from this championship before we make some sort of call like this as to the fact that hurling is sitting in football's shadow? Why is there such an inferiority complex around the hurling championship structure? We've just witnessed some of the best hurling we've seen in terms of a compressed schedule, and the reason why it was so good is because it was relentless. It was week after week after week. We properly got to know for the first time really the ins and outs of how a team in Munster or a team in Leinster set up. Well, mostly a team in Munster because they were all televised in full, but we properly got a feel, kind of like we do with Premier League teams, like we do with World Cup teams, how these teams exist in a short period of time, the day-to-day schedules of them, the week-to-week matches, and that was really important and that was fantastic. But ultimately, football has been lying in hurling's shadow, and there's little to no complaints about that. There's been the most complaints about that has been, the games haven't been televised, the football games. And to be fair, that's completely fair enough, because the hurling games have been better on paper from the outset as they actually have been in hindsight. So I don't understand why we suddenly have to sit down and say, well, hurling is going to be back in football's shadow for the next couple of weeks. Let it sit in football's shadow during the Super 8s. I mean, there's going to be a weekend where the Super 8s does clash with the All-Ireland hurling quarterfinals. I wouldn't be surprised if the broadcasters pick the hurling over the football on that Sunday, because you're going to have the All-Ireland hurling quarterfinals clashing with 4 Super 8 games on the same weekend. Who's to say that the football is going to get precedence over hurling that weekend? I'm not so sure that's going to be the case. The All-Ireland hurling semi-finals have a weekend to themselves. The All-Ireland hurling final has a weekend to themselves. The only thing that might suffer from a hurling perspective is the preliminary quarterfinals might not be shown in full on national television. But that's going to be the McDonagh Cup finalists against somebody, which is going to be a one-way street in terms of a contest. So I disagree with the fact that they're going to be played out in football's shadow somehow, just because there's less games.
It's more about the time, is that we've had all these games, we've had the ability to talk about hurling for ages, and then all of a sudden there's really nothing but football except this kind of windows of the semis and finals, the quarterfinals. Well, let's wait and see how interesting the quarterfinals are this year.
Well, except for this weekend, when everybody will be watching Clare Limerick and then potentially watching the same counties again, or whoever it might be, in a Munster final, and then we'll obviously all be watching the Leinster final as well.
Will we all be watching that?
Kilkenny Galway. Who's not going to show Kilkenny Galway? If that's. I
mean, you hope they show them. I'm sure they will. I'm sure it's not up against anything. But there's a gap of 3 weeks from the last Leinster game to that, and then it seems the spacing is random from this point forward, as opposed to we've thought this out. And he's making the point that you could actually make this be the end of the season, and not the worst idea, stretch into the first weekend of September.
Yeah, there's some of the things he says there, there should be no sacred cows anymore. I think that's a fair point. I think that's true, and I think the sooner the GAA realise that, the better. But and also the spacing thing is a fair point as well. I just don't think complaining about hurling's problems and using football as the gauge with which to judge hurling is always the case. And why?
But I don't think that's the case here, really. It's more just that the hurling final being the last big event of the inter-county season will actually help promote the game. That's his case. And look, I think that in the middle of the season, where everybody's busking along here, kind of going, well, do I have an opinion on this? Yeah, I probably do. Maybe we could try this.
Just one last thing I'll say on it. Why can't the game be promoted as the penultimate game of the GAA season? Why does it have to be the last thing? Why does it have to be, we've all been building up to this all summer, now this is the pinnacle of our national game? So what if it's the second last game of the season? Who cares? It's probably going to be a great game anyway. Like, why does the timing of it matter?
Why does it not matter, though? I guess is the point. Like have these conversations rather than say, okay, the football has to come last because it's always come last.
Well, because the way the structure is, the Super 8s are a bit later. Like, that might be as a result of randomness in the structure, but that is the way it is currently. I don't think it's being diminished.
Basically, you're a football Nazi who thinks that these hurling folk should shut up. That's what I'm hearing.
If I see the hurling championship start a month after the football championship, then fair enough, go play your final later.
Screw hurling is what you're saying.
Well, it's reverse hurling snobbery.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to
We'll
push
get you
here.
in on Stapo show on Friday and you can have it out. To the Times Online, the Times Ireland rather, Schmidt will shuffle pack for next test. We'll bring you that team in full a little bit later on when we speak with Alan Quinlan, but the big news is that Gary Ringrose is back in, that we have Keith Earls has been named to start the team. Andrew Conway is on the wing, so it's Earls, Conway and Carney, the back three. Robbie Henshaw keeps his place. Gary Ringrose is in, Bundyaki is out of the squad entirely, and Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton start, but Cooney starts on the bench, so Marmion has been dropped. Spain chaos after sacking their coach. I guess we're trying to work out just how much chaos is involved when you sack your coach 24 hours out from the start of the World Cup and 48 hours from playing Portugal in your opening game. So next we're going to the Irish Times. The Irish Times here is no winners as Spain become victims of managerial fiasco. I guess Real Madrid are kind of winners in that they have asserted their big dog status.
Yeah, because they really needed to assert their big dog status.
Well, screw you, Spain. I mean, there was always this pretense that we're the bulk suppliers to the Spanish national team, who we didn't give a shit about really when we were winning all those European Cups. And then Barcelona got good and won a European Championships and a World Cup, and we were like, yeah, okay, it's important that we have a few players there, but not too many.
But now they've returned to being the bulk supplier. This is the first time in I don't know how long that Real Madrid have got more Barcelona players in the squad. So I don't think that's really going through Perez's head.
Maybe they're like, yeah, no, I don't care about that.
Like, they are the biggest club in the biggest faction of the international
And now they're
game.
the biggest team, even bigger than the World Cup.
I know, it's sad, isn't it? It's really sad.
One of the things in the that's doing the rounds is a clip of Lopetegui. He's being asked questions. They're at a press conference last week, being asked questions about Zidane leaving, and here like, bloody hell, it's the World Cup. Stop asking questions about this.
Yeah.
And then obviously he got a phone call going, oh yeah, I'll happily talk about it. You want me to take? Yeah, no problems. I'll take Zidane's job.
It is remarkable.
It's only the World Cup. Don't worry about it.
It's a competition that's going to turn over $6 billion in profits for FIFA over the next couple of weeks. And yet Real Madrid, just with a click of a fingers, were like, you're still minnows in comparison to us. In comparison to one club, a $6 billion tournament that's going to be turned over in the space of 3 weeks just gets turned over that quickly.
Just a little Twitter exchange about the first World Cup. The opening game, the first one that I remember was 1990. At Digger_forum, aka Fuck the Hypocrisy. 1990 was the worst World Cup in recent times. Wasn't that the last tournament before the back pass was outlawed? And then Michael Foley of the Sunday Times, not the wrestler, says, I recorded every goal of that tournament. Lots of room for episodes of home and away at the end of the tape. It was unconscionable rubbish. That's why it was such a happy time for Irish football. You know, passing the ball back to Packy was a tactic. And then Packy hoofing it up to our twin towers of Niall Quinn and Tony Cascarino.
It's the way to do it. I mean, we should return to those.
Can we go back to that? Can we go back to that? Wouldn't that be good? The Cameroon lads kicking lumps out of Caniggia in the San Siro in 1990. Was it the San Siro? I didn't even know that.
San Siro, yeah. It was where kind of the world got a little bit more edgy, even the opening ceremony.
Was it? Italian 90 lads, Cameroon versus Argentina. Cameroon win, but Caniggia running with the ball. One Cameroon player tries to take him out. Half does it, but stumbles along, carries on to the next Cameroon player, cleans him out. Sent off, class game, says James Gill. What was the opening ceremony?
It was, so where were we in 86? Mexico. So Mexico was like the first time where they have like exotic dancers dancing in the opening ceremony, and the whole world is like, wow, so football is sexy. And then they do that in Italy as well. And then after that, it kind of goes down a downward spiral to the point in 98, where I'm not sure if you recall, but the opening ceremony is essentially the Teletubbies. It's essentially just weird
French
dancers dressed up in kind of very wild colours and dancing to crap music, and even their dance moves, even though I couldn't be a judge of dancing, was visibly terrible. And it was just at one point where 86 and 90 were like, this is the fashion capital of the world, this is Milan right here, and we're going to be exotic and we're going to be attractive to everybody around the world. And very quickly it just kind of spiraled down to a rabbit hole of nothingness. Although Diana Ross missing a penalty in 94 was probably...
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate, that's perfect.
That was peak opening ceremony, and after that it's all been crap. Teletubbies in 98 and...
We didn't even talk about the fact that America, I mean, it's a treble bid between America, Canada and Mexico, but all the games are in the US, and there's 10 in Canada and 10 in Mexico, but all the other games, which
80
is like
of them, 60 of them, sorry.
Yeah, are all in the USA. It will be a brilliant World Cup.
It's going to be vast. It's going to be absolutely vast. It's going to the 16 groups of 3. Which, if my maths is correct, that is the 48 teams.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be, just as I say, it's going to be incredible. The whole idea of a festival atmosphere of football is something that's often touted with this and with the Euros in 2020 and all that sort of stuff. Then again, it is the year 2018 and we're in the biggest country in the world for the World Cup, despite the fact that it's all kind of focused on the European side of the country. So I don't think it's going to be too noticeable. I don't think you kind of get a nationwide feel that every single street you walk down in Russia is going to be like packed with party atmosphere. It's just the cities where the games are on. So it's like if Morocco had won that yesterday, that would have been a story today. That would have been a great story. It's like FIFA do it again.
Could get behind a World Cup in Morocco. So next is the Examiner. Spain Saipan. Hierro asked to unite factions after Lopetegui axed. And then they have an embargoed story in the bottom right, but that actually is that Ronan O'Gara is staying put. He is sticking around for another year in New Zealand. He signed a deal that's going to take him through to 2019. It is an Examiner exclusive. Tony Lean has the story. Obviously, Ronan O'Gara writes a column for them, so he's broken the news with them there. And with a good team, you don't have to be the head coach to have a productive relationship with a group of players. This is not a stepping stone club. The Crusaders is a really good place to be. So that's Ronan O'Gara sticking around with Crusaders for the 2019 Super Rugby season. And you'd think at that point he'd be ready to come home. So
yeah, it's kind of finishing his nursery of teaching. Like, I wonder, is there any kind of vibe of how he's getting on down there, other than the obvious that this is clearly a very good stamp of approval?
So 2019 is going to be the end of the World Cup, right? And Joe Schmidt goes back to New Zealand. At that point, Leinster once again are forced to hand over their coaching ticket team of Leo Cullen and Stuart Lancaster. And at that point, come on down, Ronan O'Gara, and you can be the Leinster coach. And you can have Joey Carberry. Boom. I like the look of that.
Is there any point in me even entertaining that?
I mean, what are you talking about? Entertaining it.
Like the
best club job in world rugby.
Classic Leinster, just depending on the output of Munster once again. The expertise and coaching of Ronan O'Gara. Once again, the life support machine for Leinster rugby.
You can stick to your 10-man South African stuff down there, and we'll have Raj inspiring the greatest backline of the world.
Well, Andy Farrell's going to be the next Ireland coach, and nobody will have to move, and Raj can just go directly into the Ireland setup.
Okay, so after the Examiner, we're doing the Racing Post. We've got that very quickly for you. Racing Post is Eclipse mission next for Massar, and here we go. Spain drift to 7-1 for World Cup with caretaker manager at the helm. Maybe that's the best bet of all time. Maybe they're going to pull a Denmark 1992, a little bit of pre-tournament bullshit, and it's like, well, who cares? Let's just go and have crack. Maybe that's what's about to happen.
I think it is. I'm definitely getting on that 13-2, 7-1, whatever odds I'm going to get on that. Will I move on to the Herald? Yeah. On the back page of this is Laois Fear dub goals. Boss Shugru plans to stop blue wave that hit Longford, and Hierro to bravely lead Spain is the story there. On the back of the Mirror, we've got a timeline on Stephen Cluxton's injury. Dublin's Clux out. All-Ireland champions lose skipper Stephen for 4 weeks after late McGivney hit on keeper takes toll. You've got Spanish and meltdown, and also Burke's off for €350,000. That's Shamrock Rovers pocketing 350 grand for Graham Burke. He is off to Preston North End. On the back page of the Irish Daily Star, it is Spain in the neck. Furious Chiefs give Lop chop. It's El Gasico as well, which is what they're describing this, I presume, to do with Gazprom, or the vast gas network in Russia. And Myler no to Rangers. It's an exclusive here. David Myler resisted overtures by Stephen Gerrard to sign him for Rangers before he joined Reading. On the back page of the Sun, it's holding out for a Hierro. Xavi blasts Spain, sacking chaos. Give him L, says Xavi. Connolly will cost you dear. Stars 30k US offer. Dublin Stadium O'Connelly is believed to have been offered 30 grand plus bonuses to play Gaelic football in the USA this summer. That's an exclusive by The Sun. But sources have been unable to confirm whether the deal has been accepted or not. You've also got Greg Cunningham joining Cardiff and Graham Burke's story there joining Preston North End. And then a couple of the UK papers. Game on, says the back of The Guardian. Hosts hope to defy expectations as Russia 2018 kicks off. And then finally, it's a Daily Telegraph. It's a very happy Harry Kane and a very happy Gareth Southgate. Now win the real one, Harry. England welcome party is on the inside there. 16 pages of World Cup coverage, they say. And yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I haven't actually seen this. This is like Gareth Southgate holding a plate of sandwiches or something, or a cake. But yeah, they've had a World Cup party for everybody in England. We get it, England. You're having a good time. Everybody's happy. Everybody's friends. There's no cliques. We get it. You can stop over egging this. We get it. Everybody's happy.